Welcome to Our Issues Birmingham. Happy Sunday, everyone. Today's guest is Ann Riegel with the Firehouse Shelter. Hello, Ann. Welcome back to the show.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me back.
And thanks for accommodating us with our quirky schedule.
Of course.
Just like you and what we're here to talk about today, even we have had some COVID dodgeball to play. So how is the Firehouse Shelter dealing with the issues that are ramping up in our community, and I would think particularly in your world?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So if you'll remember, we moved into our new facility last year around March 5th. And the shutdowns all happened March 15th. So every day in the building has been a day where we're constantly pivoting and learning how to maneuver this new normal. But I have to tell you, it is such a blessing that we were actually in the new shelter rather than the old one, where we would not have been able to serve so many people. So last year, it was a lot of kind of trials and hit and misses and figuring out how do we protect the community, how do we protect our guests, how do we protect the staff, and it was very, very effective. So what we did is we really took a hard look at operations and figured out how to continue doing those things like clothing closet, the food services and overnights, but do in a way that's a little bit modified to protect everyone with social distancing and mask wearing. And we were very, very successful. So we had a great partnership with Birmingham AIDS Outreach. So we have on-site COVID testing. We switched some of our specialty housing into quarantine rooms. So even if someone that's homeless presents without a COVID test, we're still able to take them in safely. And we still served last year about 4,000 individuals just by moving some of our services outside. So now for lunchtime, instead of feeding everyone, the street homeless people that are part of the working poor that might just stop by for lunch, we do to-go plates for them and serve them outside, and serve our regular guests. We're at about 90, which is at full capacity. We serve them in the kitchen. And I thought we had a really good plan. We probably only had a dozen people test positive for COVID, and we didn't have any spread because the staff did such a great job with making sure things were clean and sanitary. And I thought the crisis was almost over, but last week alone we had 5 positive COVID tests, COVID positives. And so now we're in the process of shutting down just a little bit to make sure our folks are safe, and going from there.
Were those 5 positives amongst the guests of your establishment, or were they amongst the employees?
So they were people that came into lunch and then they expressed desire to have a bed. So we routinely screen people who were staying overnight for COVID with that on-site testing partnership I told you about. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, they went in for lunch and ate, came back and got tested, and they turned out to be positive. And we had some people that were discharging from the hospital that I guess tested negative there, and they came here and they tested positive. So it's been pretty challenging. I'm happy to announce that we have 100% staff vaccination, but there's still a lot of fear within the homeless community. So we're probably only at about 35% of our homeless population being vaccinated, and that's probably generous.
Are you offering the vaccination to the homeless population?
We are. We've had a couple of different testing days here at the shelter, so people didn't have to travel. That's been great for our folks that are living in housing, because we could get people to the main shelter, do a big testing event. Each one of those had over 100 people that got vaccinated, but we don't offer vaccinations on a day-to-day basis. So we make sure our clients are aware that it's available, and then we set up transportation to get them tested. But, a lot of people are just very, very fearful, which is, kind of exacerbating the COVID issue here at the shelter still.
Do you engage them in conversation about that fear?
Yes, all the time. So we're very fortunate that we have a staff that really believes in public health, and we have a couple of really good community partners that have provided a lot of literature. We have people come in and talk and answer questions about the vaccination and how it's safe. And so we really make sure that if someone is coming from a place of fear, we listen to them, we acknowledge them, we give them choices, but we always want to make sure that they know that if they change their mind, even on a dime, then vaccinations are available.
Are you giving the Moderna, Pfizer, or Johnson and Johnson?
So we've been doing Pfizer with the vaccination clinic because when we started the Johnson and Johnson, there was some talk about there being some issues with it. But I do feel like the one shot option is really good for our population. So even if we can get one out of a 2-shot series, we're happy. We consider it a win. Anything that we can do to mitigate those risks, because we have such a high risk population here. Right now I have 3 people staying at the shelter with late stage cancer, people that are coming in after being hospitalized with lots of chronic health conditions. So if they get COVID, that's a death sentence.
Well, I would think with the transient nature of, I'm assuming there's a transient nature to your population, that the Johnson shot might be your best hope because it's one and done. It's just me thinking out loud, but getting people back may be more problematic. But I hear what you're saying. You're happy to get the 1 dose.
Yeah, anything that we can get in, and we don't get to request what kind of vaccination. So if someone says, do you want us to do a vaccination clinic, we take whatever we can get. And that's mostly been Pfizer. So.
Well, we're going to take a short break and come back. I have been to your new facility on 2 occasions, and I can't tell you guys how nice it is and what a huge improvement it is over what used to be. So stay with us. Don't go away. This is Our Issues Birmingham. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. I'm speaking with Ann Regal with the Firehouse shelter here in Birmingham, our homeless shelter. So as I said right before break, I've been to your facility twice. I haven't gotten through into the back area, but because I haven't asked, primarily I'm there to drop and go. But compared to your previous location, what services are you now able to offer our homeless population that you didn't have the ability to do before this move?
Well, first, I want to thank you for dropping off donations. I'm not sure if you're aware, but the majority of how we're able to run is because of kind, caring, and compassionate people like you. So our clothing closet, we hand out about 1,000 articles of clothing every single month to not only the street homeless, but maybe people that don't have enough income to have a business suit if they're applying for a new job or things like that. So it's only with the graciousness of the community that we're able to meet those extraordinary numbers. So I wanted to thank you for that.
And it's very
that really
easy.
ties in to a lot of what this new shelter has to offer. And of course, we didn't know a global pandemic was coming when we built it, but the entire shelter, it was meant to be clean and sanitary and allow for this building. You know, the community poured their heart into building it. All of the funds for this $7 million build was raised locally by people in the Birmingham area that cares about the chronically homeless. And so we want to make sure we're good stewards of that gift giving, and the building will last us for as long as we are needed. And so in that vein, having the pandemic come and it be so easy to clean is absolutely priceless. Now, one of the key features that's good for pandemic that we didn't even plan for is our donation drop off like you experienced. So you're able to come right up the back alley. If you have food donations or clothing donations, call a number and we'll come out to the car and get it. And
it's really a breeze.
Especially with the clothing items, tennis shoes and blue jeans and shorts, all those things that you enjoy wearing during the warmer months, we need as well. And the new shelter allows for an expanded clothing closet. A new really interesting thing that we're able to offer now is laundry. So oftentimes when someone is street homeless, they might get a article of clothing from a clothing closet, wear it until it's absolutely filthy and unsanitary, and then discard it. Sometimes it makes it in the trash can, sometimes it might be in the park. And that's not really a good use of a finite amount of resource with clothing, and it's not sanitary. And so now, if someone that's street homeless needs their laundry done, they can drop it off here at the shelter. We wash it and fold it, and they can get it back within 24 hours. So that's a really cool new thing that we're doing. Of course, we've always done food service. It's what a lot of people interface with the shelter, doing meal serving and things like that. We still serve about 120,000 meals out of our shelter. Now, of course, it's a lot of to-go for lunches, but we still do breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and midday snacks. So we're able to have a hot bar, and the dining area is really nice and spread out, which makes it a lot easier during pandemic to socially distance. But that big lunch area also serves as cold weather shelter. So when the weather starts dropping and we need to increase our capacity, we're able to move the tables and put in cots. So every part of the building is really utilitarian and multifunctional. And perhaps one of the things I'm most proud of is our new respite area. So we have a real issue because we're not a Medicaid opt-in state of people being dumped by hospitals. So hospitals are required to treat the emergency, but not provide that extended care. And because so many of our street homeless don't have any sort of insurance and certainly don't have the funds to pay for it, oftentimes they're released very, very prematurely to a homeless shelter, and it's not always the most appropriate place for them to go. So we got a CDC grant. We were one of only 7 shelters in the country to receive this respite care grant, where we have a dedicated medical social worker, an LPN, and dedicated space for people that are recovering from surgeries or severe health crises. So we're able to give them the attention they need, do wound care, things like that, and then move them to permanent housing. So those are just a couple of the things that seem little, but really make a big impact in this community.
I heard you reference that you had capacity for 90 individuals. Is that accurate?
That's right. Yes. So at capacity with cots, we can house up to 100, but 90 is every bed in the shelter filled. So that's where we stay at.
And what is our homeless population estimated to be in the
that
just
is
Birmingham?
Such a difficult question because every community that receives HUD funding does what's called a point-in-time count. So every day, for one day a year in January, volunteers actually go out on the street and literally count the homeless. So you can see how that might be a little bit flawed, because if it's a cold night, people double or triple up in hotels. Homelessness population is kind of being spread out to surrounding areas. And so it's really hard to get an accurate count. I can say that we have documented over 4,100 people. They're not homeless. They are right at the precipice of becoming homeless. So it's a pretty big population.
Well, do you draw from other counties outside of Birmingham and Jefferson County?
Yes, we don't have a residency requirement. A lot of people do come from Birmingham, but we have people who spent their last night in Hoover, Mountain Brook, Vestavia, Trussville, all the surrounding areas, Blount, Shelby County, St. Clair County. So if someone needs a place to stay, we'll let them in.
But you mean on the street? They spent their night.
On the street, sure.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a short break and come back and continue talking about the services that y'all provide there. This is Our Issues Birmingham. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham, speaking with Ann Regal with the Firehouse shelter here in town in Birmingham, for those of you that are outside of our local area here. So when I was a young kid, I traveled abroad with my brother. We were very young, and we stayed in youth hostels because we were trying to do it on $5 a day. Very difficult, but it was the early 70s, and $5 a day went further than it does now. In the daytime, we had to leave. Do y'all have that requirement? We couldn't just hang out during the day.
That is a really great question.
Thank
so
you.
that was one of the reasons that we wanted to build this bigger facility so people didn't have to leave at 6 a.m. So that's a very traditional emergency shelter policy where you check in at 6, you leave at 6. And then during the day, people are just wandering the streets. So of course, COVID, they could be kicked out of the shelter, but then where would they go? The libraries were closed. There was no place that was safe for people to spend the time before they could get back in. So here at the shelter, they can actually stay during the day. That's something that we do remarkably well with the help of our community partners and people that are just interested in giving back to the homeless. We actually offer programming on site, everything from fine arts to spoken word poetry to health classes to healthcare screening. So if you actually want to take steps to get yourself out of your homeless situation, there are things on site that you can do all throughout the day so you don't have to leave.
Speaking of that, if people want to be involved, if people want to not just help financially, obviously that's the easiest thing to do. But if they want to be proactive in their involvement, what should they do to make that happen?
You're speaking my love language right now, because I really believe that it takes everyone coming together to move the community forward. And of course, people that stroke checks are wonderful in my book, because 93 cents out of every dollar goes directly to supportive services here at the shelter. But I think that when people actively get involved, when they volunteer their time and their skills and actually sit across the table with someone that's suffering, that adds a richness and a level of compassion that I think our society desperately needs. So if you're interested in giving back, I would never say you have to come to the Firehouse, because maybe homelessness isn't what floats your boat. Maybe you care about animals, or maybe you care about kids, or maybe you care about the environment. My main suggestion would be to take the step and get involved. And the best way to do that is to pick up the phone, call someone, say, what do you need? Not going in it with a lot of preconceived notions of this is what I want to do, but find an agency, reach out, ask if what they need, if you can fill it, and then go from there.
Who do you partner with around town with respect?
Oh, we have lots of community partners. So we have lots of different partnering programs with UAB. We work closely with First Light, which serves women and children, because oftentimes we have people within the same family unit that we need to collaborate with. We have a big partnership with Birmingham AIDS Outreach. They do STD, HIV, and STI testing here on site, as well as COVID testing. We partner with Beacon, which is a dual diagnosis for mental health and substance abuse. And then One Roof, which is the umbrella organization for all the organizations that work within the homeless realm. We all get together and talk about how our resources are best used. So that's not even talking about our partner churches, in which we have so many faith-based communities that are the sole reason that we're able to provide, just tons of services.
Well, does the homeless person initiate the contact, or does it take a Don Lupo, our city liaison with the homeless, to like
well,
go?
Every community needs a Don Lupo, if I do say so myself. But ultimately, people hear about us from all over the Southeast by word of mouth. So we believe that we're a customer service organization, and if we provide good, compassionate services, then people will start to make some of those tough decisions to help themselves get out off the street, and it's all word of mouth. So course, we have all of our information online. We have flyers. We go to a lot of community meetings, but the majority of people hear from formerly homeless individuals, you know what, this is a place that you can get quality, compassionate care, and then they show up. So,
And then I would think, I would think that there is an element of homeless who is just happy to be homeless. They want to be.
Sure. Well, that's an interesting.
They want to be left alone.
I hear that a lot. Like, there's people that are happy to be homeless, but the fact of the matter is no one really wants to be homeless. Being homeless, you have this idea in your mind that it must be really freeing, and you think about people that hop on and off trains and things like that. But in reality, being homeless is the most confining, humiliating experience you can have. You aren't even deserving of eye contact. So the people that maybe say, I'm happy being homeless, I would wager to bet that there's some mental health disparities, some untreated mental health issues, some substance abuse that are, it's protective, saying I'm choosing this, when in reality, there's a lot of other stuff that goes into it.
And perhaps that choice is short term.
Absolutely.
I would think long term that would get old real fast.
Yeah.
Well, God bless you for what you do and what your facility offers and all the people that work there. I know you've got a great staff. It's not just Dan. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. So
it's been such a pleasure. I can't wait to talk to you again. Thank you for having me on.
You're very welcome. This is Our Issues Birmingham. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you next week.
I am blind, but I need not see. I know this road is there for me.
I think it's just vapor and flavors. It won't hurt my kid like cigarettes.
Get your head out of the cloud. Talk to your kid about vaping. Visit talkaboutvaping.org.